Hey everybody, it is an absolutely gorgeous Saturday afternoon and we are going to spend it out here on Prettyboy Reservoir today, as always. If you're wondering why I come out here so much, there's a couple reasons. One is I live right down the street from here, so it's just a 12-minute drive or something like that. I can throw my kayak right in the back of the truck, motor on out here, and within 20 minutes of leaving the house, I'm out here on the water. Also, because of certain environmental concerns, zebra mussels in particular, any vessels that are registered on this particular body of water are restricted to what the 3 drinking water reservoirs that are owned by Baltimore City, this being the smallest of the 3. And then there's Liberty Reservoir, which is not too far from me, but I see no point in going down there when I've got this right here. And then there's another one called Loch Raven Reservoir, which is the biggest one, and that is about a 40-minute drive from me over north of Baltimore City. Well, I guess technically we're north of Baltimore City. We'd have to go south of here. It's just north of Baltimore City, whereas we up here are very north of Baltimore City. In fact, we're almost up to the Pennsylvania line, where we are geographically, but technically we are in Baltimore City property because this reservoir is indeed owned by the Baltimore City Department of Public Works. This is the drinking water supply for Baltimore City. So I'm out here early enough today that we'll have plenty of time to fish and motor around and just enjoy the scenery. Not too crowded out here today. We'll probably run into a few people. In fact, I don't know whether you can see them or not, but there's a boat tucked right up along the shoreline there down in the shadows. So we've got at least one person out here with us this afternoon, and we are actually going to start our day by sort of zigging and zagging and going up into this cove up here. I've been fishing back here quite a lot over the last several days. Been getting some action up here. Not been catching much, but I've been getting a lot of action, so that's a good place to start. Probably also do a little bit of sightseeing. As I said, the leaves are starting to change. It's just really pretty out. Beautiful blue skies with all these white fluffy clouds everywhere. And then of course we might also look for any interesting little bits of woodwork that we might find. I'm still looking for not only lengths of wood, but I am also looking for a really good tree stump to go in my big native tank that I'm going to be switching over really soon. So sit tight. We've got the rest of the afternoon. I'm sure I will come up with something interesting, and of course if I'm fortunate enough to catch any fish, we'll go ahead and put that in this video as well. So hang on, and I'll see you in a little while. Alright, we're taking our first break. I just pulled back into this little cove. I know there's a little stream that flows into it. There usually is at the back of most of these little coves. But this one is just a tiny little spring that flows in. If you look at this little area we're at on the map, it's just a little finger of land that sticks out. So this stream can't be coming from anywhere of any kind of distance. And it just flows down off this little hill. And you can see it's a very small trickle of water when you get right down to it. And it just makes its way on down and out, and that's where we are parked. But I've been looking around, and there are lots of little areas where I've got to be careful where I step. And you can see here's a larger one. It's got some water flowing in it. So there is a series of springs cropping up all over the place down here. And it's all the water that's just percolating out of these hills. Like I said, there's no real place for any stream to be coming from. So I'm just going to keep on walking around a little bit, stretching my legs. Don't want to do too much of that while I'm shooting video. As I said, I got to really pay more attention to where I'm putting my feet. Well, I guess this isn't too bad. Come over this way. But then you can see gets a little more precarious. So I'm gonna stop videoing here and make my way back over, get back out on the water. No fish so far, and I'm giving up from this cove and we're going to head somewhere else. So we'll see how it goes from here, and I'll catch you in a little while. Well, we've had our little walk around and stretched our legs, and we've now left the little cove we were just fishing in. I got no action whatsoever. Well, I caught a couple little panfish, but I hardly count those. So we're just going to make our way out, and we're going to head further up into the little area we're in right now. This is actually Graves Run, and this is one of the little tributary streams that feeds into the reservoir. If we keep making our way up here around the bend and around a couple of more bends, we will eventually get to basically a little stream that we just can't go any further up. So I've seen a bunch of pieces of woodwork and really cool looking roots and gnarled twisted trees and stuff going down into the edge of the water, and while all of that stuff serves as great inspiration, I haven't seen anything that is approaching something that would be usable in the aquarium. But you never know. I don't think I'm going to be up around anywhere that's got a lot of good woodwork to choose from where we're heading. But if I see anything that is interesting looking in the inspirational sense, then we can always get a little bit of video of that. And you can see the day is still fairly young. The sun's fairly high up in the sky. So we should be able to cover a little bit of ground today, and we might come up on something a little more interesting. Alright, I just wanted to get around that one log that was sticking way out into the water. If we come a little closer to the shoreline as we make our way around this bend here, we might see some fairly interesting stuff. Usually the stuff I see that I like the most is still alive. It's the trees that are growing right at the edge of the water, and you watch their root structure and you see how they've run their roots out and everything. That's what I'd love to be able to see. Unfortunately, you know, I can't put an entire living tree in my aquarium, even if it is a nice big 125 gallon job. You can really start to see the colors changing in the woods through here. So I think once we get up to this top corner, a little bit ahead of us, I am going to go ahead and turn around, and I want to come back and fish along this area. I think this nice steep rocky shoreline would be a good spot to fish today. But it's just so pretty, I wanted to get at least a little bit of it on camera as we zoomed on by. You can see that pile of sticks right there. That is the work of a beaver. I really honestly don't know if that is like a lodge or if it's just busy work. They just do it the same way cats play with balls of yarn. Even though they're not actively hunting, they still do it. Maybe beavers just constantly drag sticks around and pile them up, because that's what beavers do. It's not like they need to build a dam to give themselves any kind of body of water, because that's the only reason beavers build dams. They build dams to dam up little streams to give themselves huge bodies of water like this. But the beavers around here don't need that. They simply live in the reservoir. So I'm not really sure why they build those little piles of sticks up like that. I guess that's their little lodges where they live. Anyway, I'm going to stop it here, flip my kayak around, and we're going to head back down that way and see if we can't catch some fish. So sit tight, and we'll see if something interesting doesn't pop up here shortly. Well, we've had our little walk around and stretched our legs, and we've now left the little cove we were just fishing in. I got no action whatsoever. Well, I caught a couple little panfish, but I hardly count those. So we're just going to make our way out, and we're going to head further up into the little area we're in right now. This is actually Graves Run, and this is one of the little tributary streams that feeds into the reservoir. If we keep making our way up here around the bend and around a couple of more bends, we will eventually get to basically a little stream that we just can't go any further up. So I've seen a bunch of pieces of woodwork and really cool looking roots and gnarled twisted trees and stuff going down into the edge of the water, and while all of that stuff serves as great inspiration, I haven't seen anything that is approaching something that would be usable in the aquarium. But you never know. I don't think I'm going to be up around anywhere that's got a lot of good woodwork to choose from where we're heading. But if I see anything that is interesting looking in the inspirational sense, then we can always get a little bit of video of that. And you can see the day is still fairly young. The sun's fairly high up in the sky. So we should be able to cover a little bit of ground today, and we might come up on something a little more interesting. Alright, I just wanted to get around that one log that was sticking way out into the water. If we come a little closer to the shoreline as we make our way around this bend here, we might see some fairly interesting stuff. Usually the stuff I see that I like the most is still alive. It's the trees that are growing right at the edge of the water, and you watch their root structure and you see how they've run their roots out and everything. That's what I'd love to be able to see. Unfortunately, you know, I can't put an entire living tree in my aquarium, even if it is a nice big 125 gallon job. You can really start to see the colors changing in the woods through here. So I think once we get up to this top corner, a little bit ahead of us, I am going to go ahead and turn around, and I want to come back and fish along this area. I think this nice steep rocky shoreline would be a good spot to fish today. But it's just so pretty, I wanted to get at least a little bit of it on camera as we zoomed on by. You can see that pile of sticks right there. That is the work of a beaver. I really honestly don't know if that is like a lodge or if it's just busy work. They just do it the same way cats play with balls of yarn. Even though they're not actively hunting, they still do it. Maybe beavers just constantly drag sticks around and pile them up, because that's what beavers do. It's not like they need to build a dam to give themselves any kind of body of water, because that's the only reason beavers build dams. They build dams to dam up little streams to give themselves huge bodies of water like this. But the beavers around here don't need that. They simply live in the reservoir. So not really sure why they build those little piles of sticks up like that. I guess that's their little lodges where they live. Anyway, I'm going to stop it here, flip my kayak around, and we're going to head back down that way and see if we can't catch some fish. So sit tight, and we'll see if something interesting doesn't pop up here shortly. So I thought we would just make our way further back into Graves Run. It's really breezy out today, and it has been very difficult for me to find a place where I can sit in one spot long enough, or at least keep moving in the same direction long enough without the wind shoving me around to get any kind of real decent fishing done. And so I thought we would just come down here, come around the bend, and eventually we are going to be making our way out and around this point here. But I think in the meantime, I'm gonna swing around and try to do a little fishing back in this little nook and see what happens. So sit tight, wish me luck, and we'll see where the day goes from here. Nice. Big old white perch. Finally. So stopping in this little cove paid off. You gotta be really careful when you grab a hold of a perch. They have the sharpest spines. Even their gill flaps, they stick their gill flaps out and they've got little spines on the edge of them. So that's a beauty. And quite often if you catch one perch, you catch a lot of perch. So we're gonna spend a few minutes here seeing if we can't pull a few more out. Of course it'll be a little easier once I get the kayak turned around. Alright, I just had to pull over and check out a piece of wood that I saw sitting over here. It turns out it's probably not going to work, but while I was sitting here I noticed this tree over here, which I really like. And we've got that tree sitting right there that's kind of growing down over the rocks. I think that's awesome. I see stuff like that all the time. That's just inspiration for me. But the piece of wood that I came over here for, I guess you can't hardly really even see down into the water from this angle, but the piece of wood I came over here for was that. And when I saw it, I was looking at it from this angle, and I didn't realize it was so long. I just saw these two hollowed out parts and then some of this, and it really, from the angle I was looking at it, it looked much more like a tree stump rather than a big old log like that. So we'll move out, and you can see it's a lot of piece of wood there. It just keeps going and going and going. So I was looking at it more from sort of that kind of angle, and I didn't really know exactly what I was looking at until I got over here and was able to see it. But seeing stuff like this all along the shoreline, you can see how pretty much every tree around here gets these roots that are all, you know, they can't go forward anymore. They have to go off to the left and the right. And so ideally that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a tree stump from a tree like that that has died and left its stump behind, and I can get something that's going to sprawl sort of across the whole entire bottom of my tank. Because remember, this is going to go into a 6-foot tank. So we need to back up, turn around, and go out and around that point there and get rid of that spider web wherever that's coming from. And then we'll be up into the cove where Graves Run flows into the reservoir a little more stream-like. So sit tight and I'll see you around the bend. Alright, once we come around this point here, we will be in the last part that is sort of wide open and deep, and as we make our way towards the back, it will get very, very shallow indeed. In fact, it'll get so shallow we won't even be able to get up into where it's stream-like unless I hoist the motor and we go in by paddle, and even then it's likely that we may ground out in the mud on the bottom. I've done it before. The water has to be absolutely maximum capacity in the reservoir for me to be able to get the kayak all the way up in there. And so I don't know, we're pretty close today. We'll see. We're making our way up in that general direction, so if we go that far, it'll be, you know, something to look at. And if we don't, I'm sure we'll go somewhere else where there's something to look at, because it's always pretty and scenic. There's another one of those big old beaver lodges or whatever they are, big old pile of sticks that the beavers pile up. I'm assuming that continues down under the water and they're living under there, but I don't know. So alright, let me get on with some fishing along this shoreline here. and we'll see what happens. As I said, if we're going to make our way up around this bend up here or not, we're just going to play that one by ear. So sit tight. I'll see you in a bit. Alright, I have hoisted my motor so it is just down in the water because we are running over top of all kinds of weed beds, and we are actually about to run out of what I'll refer to as deep water. You can see right over there where the water gets real still. It's partially because the wind's not blowing on it over in that corner, but over from here, basically over, is muddy shallows. It's just completely different environment, and that is because right there is where Graves Run flows out. No, actually it's right here is where Graves Run flows out, and it brings all the silt with it, and then of course it settles out here, so it's almost creating like a little bit of a submerged delta. When the water level drops by a few feet, you can walk around out here. It's just all just mud flats, and so we are probably only in 3 or 4 feet of water at this point, and very soon we are only going to be in a few inches of water. So I'm not going to mess with it today. I don't feel like getting stuck, and I don't feel like getting the paddle out and paddling around and all that kind of stuff. But since we came all the way back this way, I thought I would at least get a little bit of a look around the cove. We still got the wind pushing us probably as much as the motor at this point. It's a really windy day out here today. So anyway, I'm going to end it up here, and we're going to turn around, make our way back out. I don't know if you can see them or not, but you can see the little twigs and sticks and stuff sticking up out of the bottom of the water. In fact, if we look over here where the sun's shining, you can see what I'm talking about. We are in really, really shallow water. Oh, now we're hitting the bottom. So, all right, everybody, I will get this sorted out, and I will see you around the bend. Alright everybody, I had to hoist my motor to get it up away from the bottom anyway, so since the motor is up and I had to paddle my way out of here, I figured why not go ahead and paddle as far as I can paddle, and we'll see if we can get up into the stream. So once you get over to where we are now, right in front of the mouth of the stream, it's actually a little bit more of a channel, and you can see we're in slightly deeper water. I could probably even get away with using my motor again, but I'm not going to worry about it. So we're just going to paddle upstream. And I can see a branch right out in front of us, so we're probably going to want to stay to the right of that. One good thing about having the rudder on there is I can actually sort of steer with the rudder, and I can keep paddling on the same side. An old hubcap. So we're definitely back into shallow water. I'm hitting the bottom with my paddle here. I'm waiting for those geese over there to take off flying any time now. There's the sticks I was seeing, so we're once again back into shallow water. I feel like I need a push pole more than a paddle. And now we are dragging the bottom. I don't know if we're going to be able to make it or not. We are really scraping through the mud. It looks like it might get a little deeper over that way. Let's try to go over there. There we go. Now I've been looking at this piece of woodwork here for years. but that's a wee on the big side. Alright, we should be able to go all the way up to where I can park my truck when I come down here. We might even run into some people up here fishing. Oh wow, look at the size of that hornet's nest. It's actually not very big, but when you're paddling this close to it, it's bigger than I want it to be. There's a school of about 200 little fish. Well, I got my rod sticking up behind me, so this is gonna have to, something's gotta give. Alright, there we go. I've been looking at for years. That's actually not a bad looking root mass right there, but that's more from like a bush or something. I don't know how well I'd be able to get that to go in the tank and stay in the bottom. Believe it or not, a lot of the woodwork for my native tank actually came from right in here. If you can see where that is sawed and chopped off, I did that years ago. That tree fell down and crossed this whole area, and it really ruined the fishing. And so I came down here with a handsaw and cut it down to let the water flow through again. And this is actually a nice little honey hole right here. I've pulled some nice bass out of this little spot just from standing right there next to the road. So this is going to be about the end of the line. We're going to start bumping into rocks and stuff on the bottom here in a minute. I think I can get all the way up to the tunnel. Yeah, we're starting to bounce off some rocks. Oh, nope, can't go any further than that. If we could get up to the mouth of the tunnel, I could actually turn us around. That's what I hit right there. We did it. I think I can turn around right here. Let's find out. There we go. All right, everybody, gotta make our way back out and continue on with our fishing and see what else we can get into while we're down here. There's the Beckleysville Trestle Bridge. That'll be our next landmark. Once we get down to there, we've got about a mile left to get to the boat launch. So I'm wrapping it up. It's getting really chilly out here, and it's getting breezier and breezier. But the sun is still out and shining. It's about 5:30, I guess, somewhere in that neighborhood. And it's just really, really pretty out here still, so I thought I would get a little more video while we make our way back to the boat launch. So, alright, we're going to be heading out over the open water with the wind in our face, so I'm going to zip up my jacket and bundle up, and I'll see you all down around the bend. Once that sun starts dropping this time of year, it goes fast. So we barely got any sunlight left on the trees. We haven't even made it down to the bridge yet. I watched the sun climb all the way up the bridge and then vanish. Just noticed we've got a little sliver of moon out even. So we are definitely not going to be stopping and fishing anywhere at this point. It is getting dark quick. Keep forgetting how early it gets dark this time of year. We haven't even hit the dark time yet when we switch the clocks, so that'll be a really short day. Anyway, we've still got about 20 minutes to go. We got about a mile to go once we get to the bridge here, and we're getting there. So sit tight, and hopefully I'll get to show you a little bit more pretty scenery before we get off the water. Alright, here we we are rounding the bend, heading on up into the cove where the boat launch is. You can tell by how rough and choppy the water is out here that it is a breezy day, as I've been saying. So we got a couple more minutes and we'll be out of here. If you can see that little bridge up ahead of us, just before we get to that is where our destination is, so we don't even have that far to go. So I can't imagine anything more eventful is going to happen. The sky is not particularly eventful behind us, but if that changes, I will pop back in and say hello again one last time. Otherwise, I'm going to say thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed. Make sure you're subscribed. You never know what you're going to get with me. Probably going to do as much of this outdoors type stuff as I can while the year is wrapping up. Once the leaves are done falling, I will be inside for the rest of the summer, or rest of the winter until next summer. And so I've only got probably a few more weeks before you're not really seeing any more of this outdoorsy stuff at all. So if you like this kind of stuff, enjoy it while you can. And of course, you can always follow me over on Patreon, where I do a lot more of this kind of stuff. And in the meantime, I'm going to say thanks for watching again, and I'll see you real soon in the next one.